This is Pre-Algebra 2.3. It starts on page 63 in your book. This is a picture of Central Park in Manhattan, New York. It is really cool when you see it in person. It's just beautiful. If you were to walk the entire perimeter of the whole park, you would end up with, it's about, let's see, the perimeter would be 2.5 miles, and it's about 0.5 miles wide. You would end up with about 6 miles of walking. And it's right, you can see the skyscrapers and stuff that surround this. But it takes multiplying decimals, and that's what this lesson is about, multiplying decimals. If I had 100 square, this is a 100 square grid, and I colored 21 squares, like I did here. On top I have, hang on, .7 squares colored, and over here I have 0.03 squares. And if I multiply that out, in a way that we could actually read it, I would have 0.7 times 0.3, and I would end up with 0.21. That's the amount that is shaded in. Now when we multiply decimals, let me get to the next screen. Multiplying decimals is the same as multiplying any number by another number. You just ignore the decimals to start with. You make sure you keep, all your columns nice and in line so you don't get confused here. And we would multiply this out. We would have 2, 8, and 5. Then we would have, let's see, 8. Okay. And then we would add those together. And now we have to go in and add in the decimal point. And basically, it's very simple. You're just going to count the number of digits that, how many decimal points you have. So up here we have 2 decimal places. Here we have 1, 2. And we know that because the decimal point was right there. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 decimal places. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so my answer is going to be 2.3862. It's very important that you understand that. I know you probably know it, but just to make sure, if there's any doubt on that, we need to get that clarified. Now you can check your answer on decimals this way. We can round up to the leading digit of the first non-zero digit. I know that sounds like a big word. We have 5.82. We're going to go round up to the next nearest whole number here. That would be 6. On this one, we're going to round up to this one, and that's the nearest tenth. And because this is a 1, we're on the downward slope of my hill, and we're going to round down so the 4 doesn't change. We know that 6 times 4 is 24. Now, one thing I didn't do here was I didn't go ahead and write down the 0 there, because that's still there. So we still need to write it there. But when I do that, I have 1 decimal place there, and so I can put that there, and I can say my answer would be 2.4. I can go back to the previous screen, and if you remember, I wrote down the answer was 2.3862, and I can see that my checking my answer and my answer are very, very close, and so my answer seems reasonable to me. And I just want to make one more comment about this 0 that I went back. Whenever the leading digit, so here the leading digit was 5, but here the leading digit, we have a 4 and we have the 0 there. So whenever this number is less than 1, we have to have that 0 there to make everything work. Okay, so just sort of remember that's the leading digit. Is the leading digit of a number is the first non-zero digit, but sometimes we have to add in a 0 when it's less than 1. So let's talk about this one. We have 6.45 times 18. If there is no decimal here, you know that there is one that's invisible right there. It's just automatically there. Anytime we write a number with, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if there's nothing there, we know the decimal point is there, because it would really be, if we wrote it out, 1 would look like that, 2 would look like that, 3, 4, and 5. Just remember that. So here we have 6.45 times 18. We're going to multiply that out, and we would have this, and our answer would look like that. Now we have to add in the decimal points. Well, we don't count this one. I just wanted you to know it was there. But every number behind a decimal point, we have this one, the 4, and we have the 5. That equals 2 decimal places. Remember, it's what's behind or after the decimal that counts as a decimal place. So we have 2 there, we have 0 here, we go 1, 2, and that goes there, and that's our answer. Now, after we place the decimal, we can get rid of any zeros that are here. We don't need those. So our answer is 116.1. We could check our answer. Let me change colors here. And we could go with 6, and we could round that up to 20. And our answer is 120. And we can see, we know we had 2 decimal places, so we can see that our answer seems reasonable. We're not out of the ballpark there. The product seems reasonable. Let's look at this. I'm having trouble with this particular slide. It keeps popping in and out, so we'll try it. This is the 3rd time I've tried it. If we multiply this just like we normally would multiply, and you multiply everything out, you would end up with 8, 3, 6, 7. I can go ahead and just move these 2 zeros down here. I don't have to multiply those out. Now I have to figure out where my decimal places would be. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So my answer is 0.07638. This 0 has to stay there. I can't get rid of it as unnecessary because it is holding a place here. I could do a quick check of 1 times 0.06. That would equal 0.6, and I can see that this answer over here is reasonably close to that answer, so I'm in the ballpark. I'm not a big fan of this estimation, but your book wants you to think about it and to use it, so hey. So here's another problem. I have 1.4 times 7.2. I already started it, so you could see 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 2 is 2. 7 times 4 is 28. I carried my 2 up there. And 7 times 1 is 7 plus 2 is 9. I can add those together. I get that. Now I have to figure out how many decimal places. I have 1, 2, 1, 2, and my answer is that. Alright, so another problem is 0.98 times 0.21. I multiply it out 8 times, or 1 times 8 is 8, 1 times 9 is 9, 1 times 0 is 0, 2 times 8 is 16, carry the 1, 2 times 9 is 18 plus the 1, that's 19, and then I just add my 0 in down here. I don't have to multiply it out, but I now have to go back in and see how many decimal points I have. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and my answer is 0.2058. Okay. If you were going to check this one here, you could do 9.98 is rounds to 1, and 0.21 is rounds to 0.2. So your answer is going to be 0.2, which is close to our answer. So we know that that one was the right or reasonably close answer. Another example is 2.351 times 1.6. I multiply that out. 1 times 6 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. Carry the 3. 6 times 3 is 18 plus 3 is 21. 2 times 6 is 12 plus the 2 that I carried over but did not write down is 4 equals 14, and this is, I'm basically rewriting this down because 1 times itself is itself. I add that together. Now I have to figure out my decimal points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's my answer. 3.7616. Alright. To check your answer, let's see, our answer here, we would go with, for this one, 2.33 is we rounding down, so we would not change that, so it'd just be 2. 1.66 rounds up, so it would be basically 2 times 2, which equals 4, and we can see that that is reasonably close to 3.7. We can also multiply decimals to find area. Going back to when I talked about the Central Park picture at the beginning, it's a rectangular park. So we know that the formula for area is rectangle is area equals length times width. And that the area that I said before, the length 2.5 and the width was 0.05. And so we would multiply that out, 2.5 times 0.05, and the answer would be 1.25. We can make sure our decimals are right because we have 2 decimal places. And so the area of Central Park is 1.25 square miles. And so you could work out those kinds of problems. If you had a rectangle that was the length was 9.42 and the width was 2 inches, you know the formula is A equals LW. I don't know why I put a decimal there, but anyhow. And if you multiply that out, you get 18.84 square inches. Just remember on area, it always has that little 2 because it's squared. Okay? And your assignment is going to be on page 65 through 66 in your textbook. We didn't do note-taking but on this lesson, so that lesson will just stay blank for the moment in your note-taking book. And you'll do problems 13 through 34 and 42 through 55.